Hello everybody, welcome to GamingInstinctsTV. Today I would like to talk about World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth and one of its upcoming features, the plundering of uncharted islands. This new feature is basically the next evolution of Mists of Pandaria scenarios that are much more advanced according to Blizzard. I'm super fucking excited for this feature, but I have a lot of concerns for it as well, particularly the Advanced NPC system and its randomization elements and gameplay. Let's deep dive into it and discuss our concerns. First, let's talk about how the Mists of Pandaria scenarios compare to the new scenarios in Battle for Azeroth. As you guys and girls can see, here's some footage that I took off Theramar's Fall from Mists of Pandaria. The point here is that you can see that these scenarios are very scripted and are broken into stages. The stages system is basically a script system that asks you to do certain things at specific stages, and these things never change. They're always the same no matter how many times you do the scenario with your buddies or a random group. In the Theramar's Fall scenario, you're first tasked with setting up explosives on Alliance boats and killing their captains. Second stage asks you to report to your commander. Third stage asks you to kill the Griffin Master Baldrach. And in the fourth stage, you're tasked with destroying a manned siege tank and sabotage 3 other unmanned tanks. And of course, the final stage will ask you to kill the captain, loot his key, and then free one of the prisoners in the fucking basement. And that is it. When you jump into Theramar's Fall scenario again, the story in the stages will always end up being the same and play out in the same exact order. Mobs will be placed in the same spots, and so is everything else. There's absolutely no fucking variety here. And if you've done it once, then that means you've done it all. Now in Battle for Azeroth, the Island Expeditions, or aka the new scenario system, throws in a bunch of new twists and gameplay elements into the mix that creates an evolution of the system. Before we start talking about how the actual gameplay loop works for the new scenario system in Battle for Azeroth, I'd like to talk about the islands themselves. Ungol Ruins and Havenswood are the first 2 queuable islands / scenarios that were showcased to the public. I'm also assuming that there will be more coming, and there's probably quite a bit they haven't showed us yet. As you can see here, Ungol Ruins is a very lush and green island, filled with beautiful palm trees, lovely blue sea, clear skies, and ruins. I really like the look of this island. It gives me that cozy warm feeling, like I'm on vacation, and it also screams pirates, dinosaurs, and treasure to me. Now who would not want to go on a vacation filled with fucking 60 mounds of gold and treasure, dinosaurs, and bloodthirsty pirates, and of course, most importantly, the Azeroth, which is the whole point of queuing for an island expedition. The second island is called Havenswood, which is a Gilnean island. If you're into the whole Gilnean lore or a fan of Greymane and the Morgans themselves, then this is the place for you. I always loved and adored the Gothic architecture of the Gilneans. It definitely has its own feel to it, and it also reminds me a bit of Bloodborne, except that it's obviously more lighthearted. I'm gonna go super quick off topic here, but Bloodborne is one of my favorite games of the fucking generation, alongside Super Mario Odyssey. Yes, Nintendo fans, I didn't forget you. Anyways, I'll be spending a shit ton of fucking time here in Havenswood, just because of those reasons alone. You can see that Havenswood has a fantasy folklore feel to it. Think of witches, fairies, hungry wolves, aka Worgans, and maybe even some spooky ghosts. I'm really fucking excited for Havenswood. Love its atmosphere and environment. Fuck, I'm excited for Ungol Ruins as well. Both islands look fantastic, and I feel that there will be a lot of potential here for a great gameplay loop. Speaking of gameplay loops, let's talk about how scenarios in Battle for Azeroth actually work and what the loop consists of, and how Blizzard believes this can evolutionize the scenario system that's been on a hiatus for the last 2 expansions. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's dissect how the gameplay loop works in Islands Expeditions in Battle for Azeroth. So let's say you queue for Havenswood. Your number 1 objective is to get to the treasure and conquer the island before the opposing faction does. So if you're playing as Alliance, then you're going against the Horde and vice versa. Island Expeditions have 4 different difficulty levels: Normal, Heroic, Mythic, and PvP, and they're 3v3, and they're also role agnostic. Role agnostic means you can take any combination of any roles for your 3-man group. For example, you can go with 3 fucking tanks if you wish, 2 healers in 1 fucking tank, or all 3 DPS. It doesn't really fucking matter. Just go with whatever you want. This is already way different than the regular scenarios in Mists of Pandaria. There was no such thing as 4 different difficulty levels, or let alone any kind of fucking PvP to begin with, and a race to conquering something before someone else does. This adds a whole new element of fun. Another major addition is the random generation system. For example, if you queue up for Ungol Ruins in the morning after you have your shitty breakfast, you might be encountering Subnaga, have to find a shrine that gives you a buff and a debuff, and then you have to get the treasure from a named mob enemy. After you've done it and you got your reward, and later evening you decide to queue up again after having your shitty dinner this time, and you go for the same island, what will happen then, and what kind of adventure will you go on now? Well, this time you might be fighting against a band of fucking angry pirate orcs with a new named mob at a completely different location of the island. But wait, what about the shrine, you say? The shrine now is also at a different place, and it's completely different, and it grants you a brand new buff and debuff that you've never seen before. On top of that, sometimes you might get mobs that will spawn portals that will send you to a fucking dungeon or a crypt to complete. Now you just experienced a completely different story, or a scenario I guess you could say. despite playing on the same island, and you get to tell your friends what happened and how you conquered the island. The islands will also have nodes of Azeroth that you can find and mine. However, if you're doing PvP, then the opposing faction can steal them from you as well, and you have to race for it, which can be a lot of fun. There are also treasures to find, ships to board, and caves to explore, and of course, fucking faction champions to kill. There's one more big element that has been added to the scenario system that really spices it up according to Blizzard, and that is the Advanced NPC system that applies to the faction champions in particular. Let's talk about that before I give my sincere opinion of what I think about the island expeditions and what are my concerns are in regards to this whole new system. So Blizzard decided to create something called Advanced NPCs for the island expeditions. Advanced NPCs, or rather AI in general, is an interesting topic, because lately most games that I've been playing recently in the last few months and years really don't have that good of an AI system. Blizzard gave us an example that an undead rogue named Sneaky Pete can sap your healer and then steal your Azeroth node while you're not aware of it, and catch you by the surprise. Or he saps you and attacks the fucking boss instead, or vice versa, where he saps the fucking boss and then tries to kill you. These advanced NPC champions basically react dynamically to what's going on in the surrounding environment, and based on that, they'll decide if they should go into an offensive stance or a defensive stance. A good example of a defensive stance would be where a mage NPC polymorphs you while he or she is near their death, and then they go back to their 3-man AI team and heal up to live another day and come later to hunt you down later during the expedition. This all sounds really good on paper, but can Blizzard actually fucking execute this in a real world live server scenario and make the gameplay fun and work the way they're saying it's going to be? Or will the players find a way to exploit the AI and make them do stupid things by finding what triggers them doing specific behaviors? This is what I'm really worried about. How long will it be before the community finds a way to abuse it? Some of you might ask, what is considered to be a good AI system? I hate to say it, but the last time I remembered seeing or experiencing a good AI system was from a game called Fear. It was a horror FPS game made by Monolith, who were also responsible for many games in the past, such as Blood 3D in the 90s, Condemned Criminal Origins, which was a launch title for Xbox 360, and most recently, Shadow of Mordor, and its latest sequel that was released last month, Shadow of War. Another shining example of a great AI system is of course the original fucking Halo Combat Evolved. Those games took AI to new places and were all amazing experiences to go through, in one way or another. But lately you do not see much of that anymore. At least not in the games I've played recently. I haven't played the latest Shadow of War, so I'm not sure how the new AI system compares to the original Nemesis system Shadow of Mordor. Either way, I thought the Mordor games had a quite unique system going on. Back on topic, developing a more intelligent AI system for an MMO sounds like a very daunting task, and that is why I'm so interested and curious for Battle of Azeroth Island expeditions. There are far too many variables in an MMO that are not scripted, so how do you make something more intelligent that's being put in a big world and there are perhaps dozens and hundreds of players running around, doing stuff? While I understand it's only being put in an instant version of a game, it's still interesting to see how it will work in a 3v3 environment with other regular mobs around the islands, and how the advanced NPCs will all behave and interact with all that. I'm afraid it's not a question I can answer, because I'm not a game developer or a programmer by any means, but I do understand how certain design choices of a particular game can affect other things and why they're designed that way. Potentially, if this advanced NPC system is actually good and the whole island expedition feature takes off and becomes a success for World of Warcraft and Blizzard as a whole, then I'd be very interested in seeing the system crawl its way into dungeon difficulty settings and possibly even raids. However, that probably would create too much chaos and would probably ruin the whole cycle of how raids/dungeons, strategies, and designs would work these days, especially due to their nature of guides and so on. You wouldn't be able to write a guide on a raid or a dungeon if the advanced NPCs start doing all kinds of random fucking shit everywhere, and each time you go in there you would never know what to expect or how the bosses would behave this time around. This would also create problems for World's First races, since now they won't be able to go off predictable scripted boss fights, although you'll never know what Blizzard can think of or how they might try to incorporate the system into their other features in the future. I'm super fucking curious to see where this goes. Real quick, just as an example, let's take the boss from Eye of Azara for Mythic +5 difficulty, and imagine if this time around his mechanics stay the same, but they're never triggered on a specific timer clock or HP percentage of the boss. Instead, the boss now has advanced NPC AI and reacts dynamically to what's going on in the fight, and uses his abilities accordingly when the boss decides that it's the best time to use them, whether they're defensive or offensive abilities. I can see this being implemented in a separate difficulty setting. As of today, we have normal, heroic, mythic, and then mythic plus. We all know that on mythic, bosses use new abilities that they don't trigger in previous difficulties, and we know that mythic plus increases all of the dungeon's mobs and bosses stats, and also adds fixes that add more challenge to the overall difficulty already. But what if Blizzard added a 6th difficulty and called it Mythic AI? Mythic AI would incorporate the advanced NPC system plus more stats, but would not have fixes, and instead Majority of the difficulty will come from the bosses being unpredictable, along with regular mobs if they decided to give them a boost as well. The rewards would not be actual gear, but instead cosmetics for people who love a challenge and want to show off that they've beaten an AI that's far above the fucking average, and much more dynamic, and that they did it, without using a guide. Because like I said previously, you wouldn't be able to predict every time what will happen in the dungeon when you go in there. Just some food for thoughts, guys. I enjoy speculating, coming up with crazy ideas. This probably seems absurd, but hey, who knew Blizzard would implement the things that we have today? Anyways, let's discuss my overall opinion of what I think about the island expeditions / new scenarios. At the end of the day, I think that the island expeditions have great potential to become something great. If Blizzard can really nail and execute the idea, particularly the Advanced NPC AI along with the randomization system. Also, just to confirm, the randomization system will give you different spawn locations when you start the expedition. Spawn new shrines, will give you NPC quest givers, as well as treasures and among many other things. I really truly hope that this will be replayable and enjoyable content that takes a long time to get old. Granted, World Quest and Legion were fucking great, but in my opinion they quickly started to overstay their welcome. As we all know, they're here to stay for Battle for Azeroth, so hopefully the island expeditions will be another great avenue for Azeroth farming, content in general, and most importantly, the fucking fun factor. I'm also looking forward to experiencing this myself, and will create future videos if a new piece of information comes up that's worthy of talking about. Alright, those were my thoughts and concerns on Allied expeditions. I really enjoyed talking about this, just like I have about the Allied races. If you haven't checked out that video yet, and are interested in Allied races and potential races we can possibly see in the future and how they can be implemented, then I highly recommend you check it out. I'll leave a link in the description down below. I hope you had fun listening to this and watching it just as much as I had fun making it and discussing it. I will have more for Battle for Azeroth content in the coming days and weeks. Next up on the list are the war fronts, so stay tuned on that, as always. See you soon folks, GamingInstinctsTV will be leaving you right here. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you enjoyed this video and are looking for more video game coverage. Peace out!